What is the weirdest thing you have ever seen a stranger do? I worked at a radio station and was doing a remote at a car dealership. A woman walked up to us wearing a shirt, an apron type skirt, no back, and men's boots, and nothing else. She had spray paint all around her mouth and kept asking to buy the special car. It freaked me out. I was walking through the town I live in a few years ago, and some guy was walking just ahead of me looking like Hagrid from Harry Potter, in a long brown wool coat and long hair and beard, and he reaches into his pocket and pulls out a plant, with roots and everything, dropping soil everywhere. He looks down, repots the plant in his pocket, and reaches into the other side pocket for his wallet. Since then I've been totally in awe of him, and I often wonder what he was growing in his coat. I've seen a lot of crazy in the air, but one memory takes the cake. A young female came in complaining of a headache, so we trudged her to the less serious, more clinic side of the ER. Now wait times in the ER can be long, especially when you come in with something that's not really an emergency. Sometimes patients pull the curtains over the glass door of their room for a little more privacy or quiet. I go to enter her room to discharge her and fling back the curtain. There is no reason she should or would be indecent. She never had to even put on a gown, but yet some guy was in there 3 fingers deep in her while she's sitting up on the counter leaning back wide open. They jump apart and apparently believing he wasn't really supposed to there. The guy goes, "It's okay, I'm just her brother." Someone going through TSA security with 2 Roombas and nothing else. 1 Roomba per bin, of course. One time I was on my way to a house inspection and witnessed a man laughing and talking to his chained up bicycle, getting progressively angrier until he started screaming and fighting with said bicycle. It was my first introduction to weird city people. Not my story, but one my dad told me. He goes to work very early in the morning, and one day he had stopped in a Wawa to get some coffee. While he was pouring his coffee, he noticed a guy who had already put coffee in the cup and was now standing in front of the cream dispenser, rotating his entire body like he was hula hooping to mix it together. Watched a guy on the sidewalk below the train platform bend down and casually put a pigeon in his pocket, then walk away. Dinner is served, I guess. A woman got in her car, took a big sip of a smoothie, then proceeded to open her mouth so her small dog could lap up the smoothie in her mouth. Just yesterday, I saw a guy walking down the street with a glass of beer. Consumption of alcohol in public spaces is illegal here, for the record. Another stranger walking the opposite direction approaches him. "Hey, give me your beer. Here's some cash. Go buy me a beer and buy yourself one too." Apostrophe. First stranger obliges, gives this man his beer, and goes off with the money to buy some beer. By the time he's back, second guy has finished the beer. First guy hands a glass to second guy, and they both go their separate ways. Was pretty amusing. I was hanging out in Washington Square Park by the fountain with my buddy. Hot summer day. People have their feet in the water and just relaxing. I shit you not. A guy comes up jogging, places his water bottle under the fountain and chugs it, fills it again and jogs away. Me and buddy look at each other like, no way dude. You know those sticks that dog walkers use to throw the tennis ball further? I saw a guy just throw the whole thing, with a ball attached. Dude did it twice. I saw an old man in a casino eat 40 or so peppermint candies. He would put 5 in his mouth or so, then swallow, then do it again. These were the ones you would have to suck on for an hour to get anywhere. When I was backpacking around Ethiopia, I ended up staying overnight in some tiny little town whilst waiting for my bus to my next destination. I saw someone walking down the street completely naked with a block of wood clenched between his bum cheeks. It was that strange and illogical that there are times where I question whether or not I saw it. In my university dorm, one girl ate the same thing every meal. She would eat sliced bread, start at the middle, and eat until the crust, but not eat it. So, she'd have an empty frame of intact bread crust. Then she'd microwave lettuce and eat it. A guy wearing boxers running behind a car which he was chained to by the neck and the waist. He was being escorted by a couple of other cars while people cheered around him. I'm pretty sure there is a context to this, but I was just passing by the town and no one from there could tell me what the duck it was all about. I was on a first date with this guy and we went for a walk in a park. The path could easily fit 3 people wide. Probably 4. He's on the outside and I'm in the middle and there's a lady further ahead, jogging toward us. We start to move over to make sure there's plenty of room for her to jog by. We start moving over more, because she seems to be heading straight for us. As she passes, she swings out her elbow and clocks me in the ribs. I turn to look at her, and she's giving me the dirtiest look. I have no idea who she was, and my date had no clue either. I still wonder if he was telling the truth, but he seemed pretty genuinely concerned and bewildered. Edit. Since so many people are asking, this was Canada. We were walking on the right side of the path and moved over to the right side. She was jogging on her right side of the path and crossed over the middle to hit me. Also, why didn't I fight her? So there's the fight, flight, or freeze reactions. I'm a freeze. This day proved it. The 2 other separate times I've been punched in the face by randos proves it. Want to randomly hit someone with no consequences? Hit me. On the bus once, there was this guy who was shouting at his hand for going numb. He then threatened his hand and told it that if it didn't wake back up, he would smash a bottle of alcohol and stab it with the broken end. I hope the hand filed a report against him. Watched a guy nonchalantly scratch his balls multiple times then wait a few seconds before pretending to scratch his nose. Did it about 6 times in a row. I mean, I've taken a whiff too, but geez man it's getting real obvious. Lady in the airport. Nicely dressed. She vomited in the middle of a walkway and just kept right on walking. Perfectly composed. Hardly even broke her stride. As if throwing up on the floor of a crowded public space was just another task to tick off on her list. Edit. No people. I didn't expect her to just conjure up a pack of paper towels and clean it up. But her total nonchalance about it seared it into my memory. Also had horrific nausea while pregnant and threw up in many unexpected places. But pretty sure I never pulled it off without so much as missing a step. At a concert, sitting behind an extremely sunburnt man, I watched him peel off a sheet of his burnt skin and then eat it, as if it was a perfectly normal thing to do. There is a coffee shop located in the building I work in. When it was time to close, midnight, I was told a guy was sleeping in the coffee shop. I woke him up and told him I was going to lock the doors and he had to leave. He stood up and opened a bottle of water and poured it on his jeans on his calf. I said, what are you doing? Meaning like, hey, you're getting water all over the floor, WTF. And he just politely said that's how they work man and then left. It still confused the hell out of me. Edit. Thanks for the silver. I've never got that before. And for the people who are asking for a description of the guy, he was mid-40s. Canadian tuxedo with a black North Face over it and brown leather boots. Kinda chubby. Not exactly a stranger, but once in middle school each of the students in my class was assigned a jug each as part of our gardening class and I remember this one guy sitting near the end of the room, close to where the jugs were kept, jerking it off into one of the jugs which, I found out later, belonged to a girl who he had a crush on. Funny thing is that they were in a relationship a year later, but I don't quite know if she knew what he did to that jug. My neighbor and I drove to get dinner at Taco Bell one night. As we waited in line, a person who looked like a junkie sprinted through the parking lot and hit a spinning backflip. The most random shit ever. We were listening to some random rap song in my car, and we both saw a emaciated looking dude do a perfect backflip after sprinting full speed into it. Could have been a meth addict. I was living in Reno at the time. An old bald man on the train in full lycra who ate a whole 1 kilogram bag of raw potatoes. When I lived in Oakland, California, I lived on a corner adjacent to 2 bus stops. It wasn't a great neighborhood, and I got to see a lot of characters. The most memorable when a strung out homeless woman sat up under the tree by one of the stops, laid on her back, and put her legs in the air spread wide and just started masturbating furiously. The next time I looked out the window, maybe an hour later, she was smoking rock, right there. Then, she didn't even put her shit away. But the legs went back up and again with the masturbating. Eventually the police removed her from the area, but she would come back to smoke there periodically. Saw a man wearing shirt with the word legend printed on the front sit down on a park bench. pull out a wheel of camembert cheese and proceed to eat the entire thing in a few bites. Then stand up and be on his way. A true legend. Old guy on the bus taking on his phone, and when he got off his phone it was a bar of soap. When he left the bus he said to the driver, "Thank you, Captain." When I worked at PC World I had a customer come in and start browsing landline phones. She then got a call on her mobile phone, so decided to take off her jacket and kick off her shoes, take off her socks, and lay on the floor of the store whilst talking on her phone. After a while she put the phone down, but continued to lay on the floor looking at all the types of landline phone. I ask if she needs a hand and she says she needs help. So I sat down on the floor with her and kicked off my shoes as well and had a good old chat all about landline phones. She ended up buying one with her extended warranty, so management didn't care that I just sat on the floor with her. My first time in LA. I was on a bus with some friends. A guy got on and sat next to me. He then tried to sell me a flat screen TV that his brother had evidently repaired. When I politely declined he got a sour look on his face. Then he started rubbing his dick through his jeans. He didn't whip it out, just closed his eyes and rubbed his dick against his leg through his pants. We got off at the next stop. Had no clue where we were but didn't care. Our Midwest personalities couldn't handle that shit. IDKY, but a lot of weird shit happens around me, even though I try and stay away from trouble. Most recent thing was me going out to eat some pho and the guy next to me casually eating noodles with his glasses instead of chopsticks or a fork. Part of me wanted to ask him if he wanted me to get him a pair of chopsticks from the front in case he had a bum knee or something, but like I said, I've learned that when weird shit happens, to keep quiet and mind my own business. Had to stop the car because a man was crossing the road while walking on all fours and had his arm in a woman's boot that went up to his elbow. He stopped midway across the road, waved to me, and continued crossing the road. While on all fours he was like he was walking the boot as if it was an action figure or something. On the expo line in LA, a man sat down across from me. I watched as he pulled out a Ziploc bag of spaghetti and ate it with his hands, getting about half of it into his mouth, the rest all over him and the floor. When he was finished eating, with spaghetti sauce still all over his hands, he then pulled out a bottle of lotion and drenched himself in it. He finishes up by pulling a sock out of his pocket and uses it as a napkin. He throws the empty bag, bottle, and sock on the floor and wanders off the train at the next stop. I've seen more inappropriate things on the train, but that was probably the weirdest. I was on the tube, subway, at like 10 AM on a Tuesday and saw a guy trying to eat his own flip-flop. When I was a kid I saw a guy in church lick the entire cover of his hymn book, bottom to top, in one long stroke. I was maybe 10 and he was easily 40. It still haunts me to this day. Edit, because a few people have asked. No, he wasn't looking at me. It wasn't a perverted thing. I was behind and slightly to the side of him, so he 10/10ths didn't know I was watching. Also, fairly certain he wasn't doing coke. I didn't know him, but my parents did, and I'm confident it wasn't a drug thing, which makes it weirder. TBH. Edit 2. My most upvoted comment is about some dude I saw licking a book when I was a kid. I love you, Reddit. Saw someone watering the tree in their front lawn with a watering can at midnight. There was a massive storm about 20 minutes later. You could see it coming while he was watering the tree. Reading these comments reminds me of the time I got the bus home after a huge night of drinking. As soon as I got on the bus I realized it was peak hour. There was people in business attire sitting next to me while I smelt of boxed wine in the clothes I wore yesterday. I sat there eating yogurt with my fingers, and it was only when I saw someone's reaction that it dawned on me I was the weirdest thing they saw that day. Just last week, I saw a man walking around my work with one shoe. I politely pointed out that he was missing a shoe and he, also very politely, apologized and proceeded to pull out his wallet and attempt to wear it as his other shoe. Please subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.